Okay, to make the outside trim for the house, we are going to have to make 3 separate components out of the pieces that we have in our kit. So I first have both of the B15 pieces, which are these white fence looking pieces. These are probably the longest ones. And then I also have another component, which is this pink. It looks like a little deck, which is number B13. So what we're going to be doing is just cutting. We're going to take just one of the railings and we're going to cut this, and we're going to cut it so that way we have a total of 3 bars from the end. And so to do that, I'm just going to take an X-Acto knife and I'm going to count 1, 2, 3. I'm going to make my cut right there. There we go. So then we're just left with a piece like that. I'll flip it around and do the same thing on the other side. I want to make it as flush with this end as possible. I think I got a little bit too close though. Let's see if I can cut it just one at a time. There we go. Whoops. I'll have to go retrieve it at the other side of the table. Now this piece we want to keep because we're going to be using it a little bit later. And then we can take our remaining pieces and we are going to be just taking some glue and just gluing it so it sits like that. And then the other piece that we just cut is going to go on the side like that. So I'm going to glue the long piece down first. You just want to make sure that this side is, you can use whichever side you want. I try to use the best painted side, which looks to be this one. And then I'm going to be using Gorilla Glue and just putting like 3 little dabs on the ends and letting that dry. So once your glue is dry, your component 9 should look like this. And this we can just set aside when we are going to put it on the house, and we can put together component number 10. So with component number 10, you will need 4 different pieces. The first is the deck flooring, which is number B9. You'll also need a railing that's B10. You'll need a railing that's B11 and another one that is B12. Oh, that's B12. This is B11. So then we're gonna create basically a 3-sided deck for the railings anyway, portion of it. So this railing right here is gonna go in the front. And then this railing right here that just has like one side with a post is going to butt up against the first one. So you would set up one railing like this, another one like this, and then I'm just gonna move that over. And then your last railing is a partial, and it's just gonna go on this end over here. This leaves a little opening where a ladder is gonna go later on, but you just wanna glue those together, and I'll show you the finished product when it has dried. So this is what component 10 looks like when it is finished. So you have your little opening on the side right there, so that way you can have your ladder, and then of course we have a larger opening where it connects to the house. So we can now set that aside, and we are going to work on component number 11 and number 12, and they are very similar to one another. So I'm just going to show you how to do both of them at the same time. Basically, I took an X-Acto knife and I took one of the B28 pieces and I cut the center portion out of the fence. And this can just be discarded. This isn't going to be used in the rest of the project. And then what you want to do is take the other 2 B28 pieces And you're just going to put 1/2 with one and 1/2 with the other. So component number 11, you're going to take your little fence and you're going to take another 1/2 and you're just going to glue them together so they look like that. And then component number 12, you're just going to take the piece and this, and you're just basically going to create a mirror image so it looks like that. And I see this one's cracked, so I'm going to switch it off for this one. There, that looks a whole lot better. So it'll look like that. And then once those are glued, we are ready to assemble all the trim on the outside of the house. So now that all my components are ready to go, I am ready to assemble the outside of this house, which I'm very excited about. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to focus on this front porch area of the house because there's a lot of pieces we're going to start gluing all of a sudden into this, and I just want to take it one section at a time. So what you're going to need is your component number 9 that we put together earlier. You're also going to need the yellow doors, which are pieces B19, and you're going to need like this front, I have no idea what you call it, like I want to call it a gable, but it's not a gable. I don't know what to call it, but it's B14. And what you want to start off with, the reason why I'm starting off with the front is you need to get these doors installed before you start gluing anything else onto this house. And the doors, it doesn't matter what side you put them on, just make sure that the black markings are facing out. So I can easily, just kind of place the door. You can have it open, you can have it shut. It doesn't make any difference. It's just that I need to use my left hand. You'll see that it's very tight. So it's not even glued, and I already have the door in there. I will glue it just to make sure it's completely secure, but I do like to keep the doors open on my house just because it's a little bit easier to put together, and the doors don't completely match with the kit to have them shut. You could use a nail file and sand these down so that way they do look like they're open and shut, but I think I'm pretty happy with that. I just need to push this one over a little bit and glue it in, and so it looks like somebody's opening up the door and coming outside. And then another trick that I'm gonna do is I am actually gonna glue these two pieces together before I glue them onto the house. So when you're putting it on the house, this piece actually butts up against these shutters. That's how tall it needs to be in order to get piece B14 to fit underneath, like so. So it's gonna kind of look like that. I know my fingers are in the way, I'm trying to hold pieces here. So it will look about like that. What I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna glue this deck to the top of this piece first, and then I'll glue the whole component to the house. That way I don't have to have all these weird clamps holding it together waiting for the glue to dry. So I'll glue the doors in, set that aside to let the house dry, and then I'm just going to glue the deck to the support underneath. So I'll be gluing it and it will look like this as it's drying, and then I'll just put that whole piece on the house. So I let the glue dry, and as you can see, I have a really nice sturdy piece now to add onto the house. And I just try to find a few tricks of the trade all the time just to figure out the easiest way to install it. So now it just will sit there. Whoop. I'll just be turning the house a little bit on at an angle on its side or whatever to get it glued, but all we're going to do is put a bead of glue along the inside to hold it, and then of course we'll have the glue underneath to hold it to the front, and then the front should be done. What I'm also going to do is show you how to add on to this little piece right here. We'll just kind of give you a little bit of an idea of how that works. So component number 10 is what you need, and this will just slide right on top like so, and then you'll just glue it right up there. And then down here, to cover up that rough edge, we have components number 11 and 12, which mine have dried. And you're just going to be gluing them on the side. So they look like this. So those will be easy to just glue in place. Of course, I'll have to manipulate them so they're straightened out. And then you'll have that side finished as well. So that's what I'm going to do, is glue everything up on the house, and then I'll work on the roof. So this is what the house looks like when I've glued all my components together so far. Now, the instructions do say to look for these pieces. So it's the steps, which is B29 and B30, and then the railings, which are B31. I've decided not to add those to the house yet. I will put those on when I get the house secured in its foundation. So I'm just going to set those pieces off to the side. And then the pieces that I will be working with next are the roof pieces, which are pieces B5. And then I also have the chimney piece, and that is B27. Now on the roof pieces, you can see that there's an edge that has an angle already cut in for you. So you line up those pieces to get the roof peak. Now when I put them together, you can tell that this one is a little warped. You can see that I have cracks on either side. It's not perfectly straight. So what I'm going to do is take a nail file, and it has basically a sandpaper on a piece of board, and I am just going to file down the center of my angle, or the center of the piece, so that way I can get this to be a flat angle and I don't have cracks on either side of my roof. Once I have that straightened out, I am actually going to take one of the pieces here. So this is the top of my roof, and I'm going to take the chimney and I'm just going to glue it onto the center. And I'm going to have that dry before I can put and glue the roof onto the house. So when I have that dry and I'm going to glue the roof onto the house, I'm just going to glue it so it looks similar to that. So the glue is going to go along the bottom edge, over the peak, and along this edge. And then making sure that you keep your light, hopefully you've glued your light correctly so it's not going to interfere with the roof. And then we'll be ready to move on to the next step. Okay, so I'm letting the house completely dry because I've done quite a bit of gluing, and as you can see, I've been using Scotch tape to kind of help clamp all the pieces together while they dry. This allows them to not shift around as much, especially the roof pieces, because they want to slide off when you're gluing them together. But there's one final piece that we need to add to the house before we call it complete and we can move on to the next step, and that's the sticker, which is A820. Now again, they call it a sticker, but it's really a piece of cardstock. But what I'm going to do is take my scissors and I am going to cut around the perimeter of these two pieces very carefully because it's rather small. And then these go into the peak. Now I kind of wish that they would have done a wood trim piece like this. That would have been easier to glue. If I turn the house over to the front, these pieces, now you can take the easy route and glue them right in the peak along the house. But when I looked at the instruction book, and you can see the piece that I'm referring to, it looks like there's a shadow behind those pieces, and they're right up against the edge of the roof. So I'm assuming that they glued them so they're a little bit projected outward from the siding of the house. To make it a little bit easier to glue these, because they're just paper, I can't really put a bead of glue along the edge. I am actually going to leave about 1/4 of an inch of paper and fold it, and then glue the folded part onto the house. I'll show you what I mean in just a second. Okay, so this is what I've done. I've cut out the piece and I have folded it. So when I glue it, I have like this little area that I can glue, stick it on the house, and it will project away from the house to create that trim shadow look. And so I'll make it really super easy for me to stick up inside the house like that. So that basically completes the house tutorial. I'll get the other side glued on. Once everything's dried, I'll take the tape off and we'll be ready to move into the interior project of the house. If you have any questions, please leave a comment below. Otherwise, thanks for watching, everyone. Bye.